What's up guys, today I'll be breaking down and reviewing the legendary scout rifle in Destiny called the Jury SR4. Now, normally I wouldn't review a vendor weapon unless I felt it was extremely good, so of course that's probably where I'm going to be going with it today. You can get this particular weapon by pledging allegiance to Dead Orbit and buying it for 150 legendary marks once you reach rank 3. It can also drop as part of Dead Orbit level ups. But if you want this specific role I'm reviewing today, you'll be buying it from the vendor, and that's what I'm stressing. Buy it from the vendor. Statistically, it starts with a fire rate of 37%. It has an impact rating of 48%, a range of 72, a stability rating of 63, a reload percentage of 75, starting magazine size of 16. It has an aim assist rating of 26, which is quite low, and an equip speed of 66%. Does the exact same damage per shot versus fire rate as Year 1 Scout Rifle Vision of Confluence, and it makes a cool weapon sound when fired, so that's key to remember. So before getting into the perks, Jury has a few stats that really stand out. It has an extremely high 72 range, which is incredible for a scout rifle. It has a very high reload percentage of 75, and decent starting stability of 63, so those three stats make it a beast on its own. The aim assist stat of 26 is low in comparison to other scout rifles, however, so you should note that, especially for PvP. But overall, it has very little weaknesses and is considered quite strong all around statistically. The perks, though, make it a monster. I'll get to that. In terms of raw PvP damage output, it hits for 40 on body shots and 60 on headshots. With regard to the skill tree, all vendor hung juries are the same, and the reason why I'm reviewing the hung jury, the vendor version, is for the perks. You have three clear options in sights: Candle IS2, which improves weapon handling, Torch HS2, which improves target acquisition and close quarters engagements, and lastly Signal MS5, which highlights targets at long distance engagements. My choice is Torch IS2 because it seems to handle quite well at any range despite it being noted for a close quarters feel, but to be honest, all three sights are very unobstructing, so you can go with any of them. When breaking down the skill tree further, the first perk is called Triple Tap, which returns a round to the magazine when landing rapid precision shots, and I find it procs one round for about every 3 to 4 headshot hits, so it really helps with stronger enemies and bosses. The next two perks which you'll have a choice over are Extended Magazine, which increases the magazine size from 17 to 21, and Hand-Laid Stock, which dramatically increases stability but also reduces range. I choose Hand-Laid Stock because stability skyrockets all the way up to 97, and the range doesn't really go down much because it still stays in that 60% area mark. And since this weapon's recoil is so easy to control, however, though, you can make a case for using Extended Mag instead if you don't want to sacrifice range. But I don't know. It's not worth the extra 4 rounds to me, so I just, to make up for that hit for the lack of range. So it's kind of up to you. I just tend up using Hand-Laid Stock because I always have. The last two perks which you'll have a choice of are Firefly, which causes enemies to explode on headshot kills, and Underdog, which gives the weapon a boost to range and handling when the user's health are low. I tend to use Firefly in PvE and Underdog when I go to the Crucible with this weapon. With regard to my overall impressions in PvE, this is quite possibly the best primary weapon in the game, bar none. It has an extremely high DPS output in the Vision of Confluence mold. It has little to no recoil whether you use Hand-Laid Stock or not. It has an extremely high range. It can take out mobs quite easily with Firefly on top of the ability to output high DPS. It has Triple Tap for tough enemies and bosses, so you're continually inputting a couple of rounds into the magazine. Whether you're using 17 or 21 round magazine, they're both manageable in size, so that's another plus. And if you really want to, especially in PvE or PvP, if you really want to output as much damage as you possibly can and squeeze every little bit of extra performance out, you can use Underdog. It was actually my first primary weapon equipped to 320, and I feel confident in bringing it anywhere I so choose in PvE, and I'll crush everything, including every bit of King's Fall, including Oryx. In PvP, it's quite manageable here as well, especially because of the low recoil and fast reload and high range it offers, but you'll want to stay in medium to longer range for best success. The aim assist is much lower than other scout rifles and pulse rifles in comparison though, so you are at a disadvantage in terms of like raw firefights. So keep that in mind when you're squaring off against other rifle types and against opponents who you know are going to be a threat. And I do tend to use Underdog instead of Firefly in the Crucible. So overall, this weapon excels at medium to long range combat anywhere in the game, Crucible or PvE. But the perks quite possibly make it the best PvE weapon in the game. Well, primary weapon anyway. It messes up mobs, it has extremely high sustained DPS because of its extraordinarily low recoil and decent fire rate, and it can be used at any range because of Firefly in PvE encounters. In the Crucible though, it is a bit lackluster, especially because of that low aim assist amount, but in longer to medium range, it isn't the worst option you'll find, and you can still find good success as long as you have the skill level to produce. Have a good one.